Tittle his negation. Billionaire CEO secretly follows his maid after work. The sun was setting over New York City, painting the skyline in gold. Richard Lawson, the 38-year-old CEO of Lawson Enterprises, stood alone in his glass office on the 85th floor, staring at the city below. He had everything: a wealth, power, and fame. But since his wife Emily's death in a tragic car crash, his world had turned grey. He worked endlessly, chasing numbers to escape the silence of his penthouse. Every evening, he returned home to find it spotless, thanks to his maid, Clara Bennett, a quiet young woman who spoke little, always wore a kind smile, and never looked him in the eyes for too long. Yet something about her presence brought warmth to his cold home. One night, as she prepared to leave, Richard noticed her hiding an old canvas bag behind her coat. "Curious?" he asked. "Greater than what do you carry in that bag every night, Clara?" She froze for a second, then smiled faintly. "Just things I need after work, sir." Richard nodded, but something inside him whispered that there was more to her story. It was raining that Friday night. The storm clouds hung low, and Richard, restless, decided to find out what Clara did after work. When she left the penthouse, he followed quietly in his black coat. No driver, no chauffeur, just him, a billionaire, sneaking through the city shadows. Clara walked through crowded subway stations, crossed the Brooklyn Bridge, and disappeared into a small neighborhood in Bedford-Stuyvesant. She finally stopped at an old brick building that looked like a school. Richard peeked through the window, and what he saw stunned him. Clara was surrounded by children. She was laughing, painting with them, teaching them songs. Some of the kids were disabled, others homeless. He whispered to himself, "Greater than she works all day cleaning my home, a broken bar, and then spends her nights here." For the first time in years, Richard felt something break open inside him: admiration, guilt, and wonder all at once. The next evening, Richard waited until Clara came to work. He approached her as she cleaned the living room. "Greater than Richard, why didn't you tell me about the children?" Clara, nervous, "See a broken bar. I didn't want you to think I was distracted from work." "Richard, you help those kids every night, and you never asked for help." Clara, softly, "They don't need pity, Mr. Lawson. They just need someone who stays." Her words struck him. That night, Richard sat alone in his study, staring at a photo of his late wife. Emily had been a teacher, a kind and selfless, much like Clara. He whispered, "Greater than you'd have liked her, Emily. She reminds me of you." From that day, he secretly began donating money to the community center anonymously, not wanting Clara to know. Months passed. The community center suddenly received new supplies, computers, and better facilities. Clara was thrilled but confused. One evening, she walked into Richard's office at home. "Greater than Clara, you're the anonymous donor, aren't you?" Richard, hesitant, "Would it matter if I were?" "Clara, why would you do all this for people you don't even know?" He looked at her, eyes heavy with unspoken emotion. "Greater than Richard, because you reminded me that money isn't life. You reminded me what love and kindness look like." Tears filled Clara's eyes. For the first time, she saw the man behind the billionaire, broken, gentle, and longing to heal. That night, they didn't speak much, but something changed. Two lonely souls had finally seen each other. 2 years later, the Emily Lawson Hope Center opened in Brooklyn, a massive children's home and school funded by Richard and Clara. The mayor called it a miracle born from compassion. As the crowd clapped, Richard looked at Clara standing beside him. She wore a simple blue dress and held a group of children's hands. "Greater than Richard," softly, "you turned my grief into purpose, Clara." Clara, smiling, "And you turned my dream into reality, sir." He chuckled, shaking his head. "Greater than Richard, don't call me sir anymore." She laughed. "I'll write a broken bar, Richard." The wind blew gently as they unveiled the plaque together, dedicated to every child who deserves a chance. As the sun set behind them, Richard realized that the richest thing he ever gained wasn't his empire. It was a heart healed by kindness. In a world obsessed with wealth, the real treasure is compassion. Sometimes, The people we overlook carry the power to change our lives forever. As the crowd's applause faded and the evening sun bathed the city in golden light, Richard looked at the children running across the new playground, their laughter echoing through the streets of Brooklyn. For the first time in years, he felt peace, not the silence of loneliness, but the calm that comes when a heart finally finds its home. He turned to Clara, who smiled softly, her eyes reflecting both strength and kindness. In that moment, he understood something simple yet eternal: money could build towers, but only love could build lives. And as they stood side by side beneath the sign that read the Emily Lawson Hope Center, Richard Lawson, the man who once followed his maid into the rain, realized that he had been following hope all along. The end.